This is Tacoincidence, an unconventional masterclass where we learn secrets of breakthrough culture, brand experience, and human connection from the most brilliant leaders, all while we're on the search for the perfect taco. I met up with Cydni Tetro for tacos at Rico Cocina in Salt Lake City, Utah. She's built her entire career and businesses around creating these superhero moments for customers and her team every day. A former Disney entrepreneur in residence, she is the CEO of Brandless and founder and president of Women Tech Council, where she is impacting generations by empowering young women to pursue careers in business and tech. I wanted to learn why she believes in the power of culture, brand experience, and human connection, what she does to create it, and how it's helped her thrive. All over tacos. It really doesn't get much better than this. It smells really good.
It does smell really good.
It's
here.
Like all in, like you can't.
Yeah, you walk in.
It's like a full sensory experience.
And I think it's because you have the back and the front, right?
Yeah.
Merging
exactly.
you full into the experience together.
Well, and yeah, like we stepped back there and like looked at like the whole factory where they're making all these tortillas for here, but for a lot of other restaurants in Salt Lake. So.
I think it's a really cool expansion strategy, right? That you. Interestingly enough, lots of our entrepreneurs that, where we met in the Golden Stack program, they think about that too, right? It's like you have this restaurant and it's got so much capacity. And so then he was just really smart on thinking of growth, right? Like, how do I take all this cool stuff that I'm doing and put it into community, which I love.
It's so cool. I am so excited to talk with you and to hear a lot of the backstory of what makes
thank you.
Cyd Tetro tick.
Yeah, this is the questions.
Yeah. No, I mean, seriously, it's we met when I was part of Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses, which is an amazing program.
It's an amazing program.
You were like just a captivating, engaging teacher. And I'm like, I have got to find out more about I feel like there's so many things that resonated so deeply with me and my path, but also what you believe in from a business perspective and how you've made focus on like your marketing and your customer experience and this like all-encompassing brand experience has been like such a hallmark of who you are. And so I was just like so drawn to that, and I'm so excited that we're finally sitting down and having a chance to hear more. So I'll let you go first with the guac. It looks amazing.
It does look good. The salsa looks really good too.
Yeah. It's like chunky, got all sorts of stuff in it.
Might be really
these guys
hot.
do it right.
Are you like really hot?
Spicy. Spicier the better. Yep. I think they make their own chips.
Hot. For sure they make their own chip. It's spicy. It's not like crazy. Good
flavor. Anyway, so I don't even know why. Oh, Disney. So, so you were entrepreneur in residence there.
I was.
Yeah, and Disney has this like legendary reputation, obviously, for everything from they call each other cast members, being on stage.
The entire culture.
Like the entire culture and this whole completely immersive brand experience that Walt Disney himself started.
Absolutely.
So, what's it like from the inside? What is this like?
It was one of the coolest things I've ever done to have an opportunity to work there. So, I'd done tech companies before and was coming off a company, and one of the companies previously I'd been chief marketing officer, and a really good colleague of mine was chief technology officer. And he was his mentor, so he's one of the smartest guys I know. His name's Tom No. He has his PhD in computational biophysics from Harvard.
Okay.
And Tom got recruited to go help create Disney research at the Disney company. And so Ed Capnell, with the acquisition of Pixar, so Pixar had this lab strategy, which said, there's problems that the company's going to face over the next decade that are technology-driven. Let's go have brilliant researchers thinking about this. And so when Pixar was acquired a little bit of time, they decided to create these labs that are tied to really brilliant academics to go figure out how you solve problems the Disney company faces over the next 10 years, specifically around technology. So think about things like robotics, AI, computer vision, 3D, data analytics, all sorts of things that take a long time for us to solve from a technology perspective. So they created the lab, and Tom went in to go help them run the lab. And he'd been there a couple of years, and I was coming off a company, and I and Tom and I were talking, and he's like, Sid, I'm about ready to launch this entrepreneur in residence program. You want to come down and like do this? And I was like, that sounds kind of interesting. Like, when else am I going to get that chance? So I fly down on this weekend. I meet with the team, and I come back, and Tom's like, so if you want to come do it, it's yours. And then these are the caveats. He's like, look, it's the first time we've ever done this. We don't know exactly what it looks like. We don't know how long it lasts. We don't know exactly what it's structured. I can't even tell you where you'd be a year from now, but you want to come. I was like, I guess this sounds okay. I guess I'll jump in. And I was like, just the opportunity to go be immersed in the Disney culture and understand what that is, and an opportunity to do also things that I really like in technology.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'm just going to go do that.
Yeah, super fascinating.
We lined up this project, and over the course of 5 years, I got to work inside of research. So Disney Research sits in Imagineering.
Yeah.
And in Imagineering, and we had a really unique vantage point because labs are over all of the business lines. ESPN, ABC, studios, theme parks, interactive, animation. So you had the opportunity to really interact and think about technology across every single business line. Wow. For me personally, I think one of the coolest things I got the opportunity to do is really understand how, a lot of times as marketers, we hear people talk about stories, right? And you hear about messaging pitches.
Yeah.
But at Disney, I gained this great appreciation that it wasn't just about like how you write the right message. It was about this journey that you take someone who's your customer on, and how they kind of emotionally tie into that, and the authenticity of that story and the relationship that's created by it that ultimately determines the connection. And at Disney, it's just everywhere, right? From when I launched a bunch of products at Star Wars weekends.
Oh, wow.
And I know Star Wars, right? I've watched all the shows, but
Yeah,
I had to. In one of the instances, we had created the carbon freezing chamber, and so guests would come, and you could become frozen in carbon like Han Solo. And so we were creating the carbon freezing chamber. It was super amazing.
Who doesn't want to do that?
Who doesn't want to do this?
Who doesn't want to do that?
Lights and fog machines, and I learned all about like the questions like which fog machine should work in this building.
Sure.
But then we had to create this whole storyline that made sense for guests, that had to stay like authentic to what would have happened in Star Wars. So there's this real attention to like, just because it might be cool, if it doesn't make sense in context of the story or what the customer or the guest would expect, then you don't do it. It just becomes part of who you are, and you get these experiences where you meet so many different people across the company, and then it becomes part of what you understand that you didn't understand before. That the reason that you should make certain decisions on product or customer or brand are because of what they enable in the future. And I think it's just a really powerful thing. So my mind really shifted from, I came out of computer science, right? So I built product, but I knew how to market. But my ability to become better at it and truly understand what it meant to create transformative experiences changed when I went to Disney. And that was one of my favorite things. Plus I got to work in tech, and I love all the technology stuff along the way.
So you said that kind of, a little bit of a paradigm shift for you as far as like from marketing perspective, experience perspective, customer journey.
Yep.
How has that influenced what you're doing today now?
For me, it's now become just a core thread through really the way I think and even the types of companies that I've built. And when I came out of Disney, I started a 3D printing company, which was a personalization platform. And you can become Iron Man, right? We take your 3D face of your scan.
You just like throw it out like that's no big deal, but like a personalization platform to allow people to become Iron Man.
Yes.
I mean, that's like, you don't get much more personal or even aspirational or like, it's just...
Because as people, it was the most fun thing about 3D Plus Me was that we got to work with all the biggest brands in the world and help people become part of the stories they love. Because people love stories, right? We watch superhero movies because we really love the things that they aspire to, and we're like, that's great. Yeah, that's why we buy the merchandise. The opportunity, which was a totally different experience, to say, how come for just a small moment in time do I put you in the shoes of Iron Man and you see yourself exactly as that? Because today, or at previous, you might buy your shirt or the socks or your cape
Halloween
or
style,
whatever.
Right? Yeah.
And anything that represents that. But when you see yourself on it, like 3D printed figurine as Captain America or as a toy, so Hasbro built a toy line for us, we're like, no, that's actually me. And the cool thing about when we built that is the software that we built took you into this moment. So even as we were building our scanning stations, like, I want this to feel, it was my Disney days coming up, this immersive moment, like you step into this world and you see yourself transformed to Iron Man. And so after you get your face scan, there was this whole experience where you were focused that you saw yourself become Iron Man.
Where did you have these booths? You had at the Super Bowl, at World
Series?
Series?
We did agreements with Marvel and Star Wars, and then we also did Disney stores. We did Halo, Assassin's Creed, the NFL, Major League Baseball, and Major League Soccer.
Yeah.
So depending on which one, you'd find us in different places. We did partnerships with Walmart, Target, and Toys R Us. So you could find them in very many of those across the country. Again, Times Square in the Toys R Us that used to be there was a permanent install. There was one in FAO Schwartz. So anyone who came through became their favorite superhero, really. So the Super Bowl, same thing, right? Because at the Super Bowl, you got to pick your favorite team. You scan your face, you pick your favorite team, you put your name on the jersey, you put your number on the jersey, and the 3D printed figurine that you'll get says Super Bowl 50 right on it.
Wow.
And so that's really cool, right? As a moment in time. Like we have many of these in my house. And so I had launched, and then we had been at Comic-Con.
Okay.
Comic-Con is like where the line was 3 hours long.
Of course.
Which was perfect.
Understand.
There's still a video out there of the Marvel.com guys becoming their characters and like filming the entire
Yeah.
thing. So I realized after that, and then right after that, I had a conversation with Walmart. And Walmart said, hey, Sid, Superhero September is coming. This is the end of June. They're like, Superhero September is coming. How many Walmarts can we get in for Superhero September? I'm like, this is a really good question. And I was like, well, how many can you pay for? And then I said, I think I need a product that's a cheaper price point. So I picked up, we didn't know anyone at Hasbro yet, but you need Hasbro's partnership to develop toy lines. So I pick up the phone and we figure out the guy at Hasbro and we call them and we say, look, Walmart wants us to launch in 2 months for Superhero September. I think I need a toy line. Will you guys partner with us? And they said yes. And we launched in 60 days, a toy line into Walmart. Crazy, huh? And it was really
those
fun.
two like behemoth companies.
I know, unbelievable.
That's great.
And it was really cool. So then we started having a toy line. We did the first version, and then Hasbro built a special toy line specifically for personalization across Star Wars and Marvel.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, this is good.
I know, you can never really have enough guacamole.
Man, this looks really good.
It does look really
Smells amazing. So, like at a high level, why do you think the 3D printing of Iron Man or of Princess Leia or whoever it is, why do you think these things are so successful and resonate so deeply with people? Like, why is that something that's a big deal?
It's all in that hero story, right? Like we have, I think, inside of us this kind of aspirational desire to do like good things and fight for the good things. Like that's just kind of in the nature of people, and we have these representations that happen in all sorts of forms today. I think it's super interesting that like Black Panther, is because it's such a fabulous show, and it's in that same genre where there's just great messages that come through in the story, right, about the human spirit and survival and whatever the forms they take in. And so I think, and our kids take them too, even in just smaller forms, right? We identify with some characters in something that creates this aspirational desire that we associate with, and then we love those stories.
Right.
And then those stories become a representation of maybe ways we think or how we want to interact or different types of things. And so when you see opportunities to put yourself in that storyline, kind of create that translation a little bit stronger, it's really powerful for people.
Oh yeah.
And it's in any genre, any place that you see that, and we oftentimes see it in things like superheroes or certain Star Wars characters or whatever those things are. And so I think it resonated so well because for that moment they could see who they are. I had a friend of mine who brought one of his brother through who had I think he had Down syndrome, and they always called his brother a superhero his whole life. And his brother thought of himself as that. And then when he went through the scan and then he saw himself on screen as Iron Man, he broke down. He was like, this is, and his brother broke down too, and he said, this is how we see you all of the time.
Wow.
Right? And so there are these moments where I think it's that message where we already kind of think of ourselves as that, and it's just this really cool way to create an extension of dreams and aspirations and even just a little of acknowledgement that you are that person, that you have that same potential and can become that. And I really loved the moments that we had to see those transformations. In Toys R Us, one time we had a young kid who came through who was a burn victim. And so, he had the scars that were on his face, but it all disappears when you get through the scanner, right? And so it was at this other moment where he saw this state that is how he sees himself too, which are really cool things. That's the part I love about really important stories, right? And when I think and translate that to customer experience and digital transformation and all the techie terms, the reason today we compete on customer experience from companies and brands is because you're looking for that realness. You're looking for things that feel more than just a transaction, but feel like a true value exchange. And sometimes those are really moving, like things like that, and sometimes they're smaller. But in the world today as we operate, and I see this in all of the CIOs and with all of the big companies that I get an opportunity to work with today, at the core of what we do, we compete on customer experience. And the better we are at understanding customers and motivations and trying to do the right things in them, then the better those brands have an association. It was also one of my favorite things about Disney is they care first and foremost about guest satisfaction. And everything operates underneath that. And they do it because they understand when you form that relationship, the lifetime impact of that is so much better than any momentary decision you make counter to that. I watched one of my old nannies go to Disney about a year ago, and they had taken their 1-year-old son for his first time. They're halfway through the day, and he throws up everywhere. And of course, she brings a change of clothes for him, but not for her, right, and everything. So you're now faced with this moment of leaving the park. And if you leave at that moment, you don't ever come back. It's too hard, and you might not come back to Disney for a very long time. Someone saw her, they stopped her, and they're like, let us just help you. So they went in, helped get new clothes, totally changed the experience. They stay in the park, and from there on, for the rest of their lives, they will become advocates for that experience. And
forever.
That's what customer experience represents, right? The ability to create experiences that are that positive for people that in our companies that we're building create lifetime brands and lifetime relationships that persist. It's how we build friendships. It's how we know people, right? And the core of the companies that we want to work with do the same.
Yeah, and so what does that look like? How do they how do they measure an ROI on something like that? How is that quantified?
So the brilliant part about that one is I think that one's really quantifiable because either you got the value of her family when she goes in. So let's say they spent $500 to go in, and she never comes back, or now you have her as a lifelong member of Disney, where I'll guarantee you every year they're going to go back, they're going to take every one of their families, they're going to start spending more. And if you look at the lifetime value of someone from one momentarily experience that might have cost Disney $100, right? You now for sure have a lifelong relationship that you really probably can't monetize. You can't quantify it completely because it's going to go into movies, it's going to go into merchandise that you buy outside the parks, it's going to go to theme park experiences, right? It just expands because your affinity towards what they did for you is now so grounded in relationship. But the reason and the way the most successful companies are focusing on what investments they make that change customer experience to make it better for their customers. Because, we're now in the land of AI and we can predict things and you get 5G networks out there and the speed of real-time enterprise is just really accelerating. Yeah. But what I get to spend all day doing is building customer experiences that align with the customer's value exchange to build relationship. And every time that we build those and we watch those deploy, the places where people are spending their money are the places where the customer is a better experience because of that and will create more longevity. Yeah. And I think you're seeing those massive pivots in retail, which has had huge amounts of disruption.
Oh,
right.
Tremendous.
We're completely changing market landscape. That customer experience focus is key to winning in those markets. Because if you don't understand, customer experience has dramatically changed for purchasing and delivery in the last 2 years. Yeah. Right, and so you look at companies like Amazon, right, who's coming in and they're thinking about how do I give you instantaneous delivery and 2-hour delivery and all of this thing, but they're bringing infrastructure. So then you look at other companies like the Walmarts and the Targets of the world. Well, 90% of Americans live within 10 miles of those stores. Yeah. But their challenge is different. They have distributed inventory. And so now they have a different problem on 2-hour delivery where they might have it close to you, but it might be in 6 different places. And so what they're getting forced to do is to really think about how does the experience for the customer stay the same, even though our operations have to change?
Yeah.
And so when they focus on that, you've watched those two companies been able to successfully counter what's been happening as Amazon, but it's driven by experience. It's driven by the fact that you need same-day delivery, that you need pickup, that your access to distributed inventory comes quicker, that it's mobile-friendly, you know, that all of those things start to change. And as they make that happen, that's creating the ability for them to create stabilization.
What do you, since you're having all of these like high-level conversations, what beyond like any sort of return on investment, beyond profitability, what's the driving force here?
I think that's where everyone is required to go. Like, we all compete on experience, right? We compete even in coming in here, right? It's an experience that you're looking for. You're looking for not just amazing food, but an opportunity to have an environment that is the experience that you need. And so all the stats, if every report that you read today says 90% of companies today believe they're competing on experience, and that customers are willing to pay a premium for experience in today's market. I think you see that in your churro business.
Absolutely,
right?
100%.
I mean, it's completely driven by the same idea that you're creating a different food experience, and people are paying a different price for that.
And it's interesting, you know, they'll go, oh my gosh, but I get a churro like this at Costco for $1, and you're selling me a churro like this for $3? Like, and you're gonna love it.
And it's amazing.
It's really good, and it's filled with happiness, and our team will ring the cowbell for you when it's your birthday, and...
Right, and it's this, and in fairness, if you're looking for the $1 churro, it's a different experience that they're going after than that, and it's also okay, right? And so it also like starts to, I think, segment markets, right? And so you say, which is the same thing, it was even true in our 3D printing business. If that storyline and that experience isn't as powerful to you, then you're just not going to spend the money on it. Right? And that's okay, but I just think the stat that's really interesting that says we're willing to pay a premium for experience. And companies are recognizing that. And so if they don't invest in experience, they're actually losing market share.
And what's fascinating to me about what you're doing is that you're kind of saying, now you're using technology to return this like highly personalized, humanized experience.
And I think that's a really important part, right? Is that as technology replaces certain interactions, it doesn't change the fact that we need kind of this other side of it. I also think
it's more an enabler.
Exactly. And if you think about it that way, you deploy it differently. Right? When people talk all the time about, you know, robots taking all of our jobs, they're going to take jobs that make sense for that to happen. But there are this whole other tier of things that they can't take and that you can't replace.
Absolutely.
And I think that's interesting. I think it all actually plays into the fourth industrial revolution, right? We were so digital for so long, and now the integration of digital and physical worlds, right? There's parts where that human part, sometimes it's just intelligence in those spaces, but it is the fact that I might not order my entire world online all the time, but it is changing things. You know, even the way, like, you know, my 17-year-old son, right? If he's hungry, he knows how to order on DoorDash, right? Like, and that's changing the restaurant business, right?
Totally,
But that's okay because other things are happening that are also really powerful, and it's really about this ability to adapt to how do you build that relationship with customer in changing dynamics.
Well, Seth Godin calls it this new relationship economy that we're in. You know, it's like kind of that fourth.
It's totally changing.
Being the standard bearer for amazing customer experience. How have you taken that into other initiatives in your life? Like, I'm actually curious about like how does that translate to your everyday life as a consumer? How does it translate to your family life as a mom and wife and in the family relationships? But also, and I'd love to hear about how that has informed and really influenced your involvement with the Women Tech Council in Utah, which is such a huge part of your life, and it's been such an amazing force for good here in Utah, and you started it.
I did.
And so congratulations, because that's amazing. And you're
thing.
seeing like tremendous things happen.
Yep.
And so what are some of those things that are happening, and how has your kind of background empowered those things?
You know, we talked a little bit about how there was this kind of catalyst at Disney where it kind of become, for me, the opportunity to kind of be part of that amazing storytelling environment. just became part of my DNA. And I really do think it changed the way I operated and viewed the world. And I've always been kind of acutely aware of wherever I'm at, like, how are they marketing? Like, what's the conversation they're creating? Like, it's just in my DNA, right? I show up, I'm like, oh, that's really interesting that they,
I feel you. I can't take the glasses off.
I can never.
I can't. I'm like, there's trash over there. There's wet spots, whatever. Like,
right.
One of my favorite pictures was Walt Disney, business pictures, is Walt Disney, this black and white photo, in his suit, picking up trash in Disneyland.
Right.
On the ground.
Well, and there's just this like standard of how it like seeps into the way you think about the world. I think the way you interact with people, the expectations you have of them, and even the way you approach, building companies or employees or people. I like to believe that it made me better at, things, and it taught me things that I hadn't really been like maybe thinking as deeply about before. Because you definitely become more aware of how one moment impacts relationship forever. Right, and the kind of strategy or the thinking and kind of just the fundamental behavior that you should have around relationships with people. Ultimately, the most important thing we do is our relationship with people. And I'm a firm believer that we have a responsibility to figure out how to use our talents to help other people, right? And I think that translates in everything, whether that's in our family, with our spouse relationship or our children's relationship or extended family, community work that we do, employees that we do. Like, I really feel like my job is the people who are around me, am I helping them leverage the talents they have? And am I doing the same thing? Am I using it in such a way that it helps them? And so I often say that I have this barometer in my own personal life, which is as I work with people and, we switch projects or we leave companies, well, those people still want to work with me. And I really evaluate if I'm doing the right thing as a leader and as a person on that team with those interactions with people. Because if they say, hey, Sid, tell me where you're going next, or I will follow you, then I did a really good job at helping them reach the potential and using the talents that I have to make an impact with people. And so when I think about how I share my time or where I spend, that is part of who I've become. And I would tell you that probably wasn't the leader that I was at when I came out of grad school, right? And all of those experiences have led me to say, that human connection is super important. So when I evaluate things like how I shape customer experience today, it's in that lens also. Like, what is the thing that you expect and the thing that makes that moment more powerful and better than it could have been? Not just because you can do it, but because it's the thing at that moment that makes contextual sense and makes a difference for someone. And so for me, that translates into things like the Women Tech Council, where we use my software world to validate everything, right? Just like, oh, we don't know if this is a good idea, but let's go validate it and test it and build and kind of have that theme that goes through my career also. But, on the Women Tech Council side, it's always about we're trying to really drive the economic impact of women in tech and address that pipeline that goes from high school all the way to the boardroom. And each one of those audiences have different needs. SheTech, which is our high school girls STEM activation program, it's really about how do we help expand the talent pipeline. And the driver for that is because if diverse teams perform better on revenue and profits, right? They have better use of thought. So for companies worldwide, the reason that you need diverse thought is because you outperform in revenue and profits, which are the drivers, right? All the good things we're doing to do good are driven back by that. So we need a bigger pipeline, right? We only have 5% of female executives in technology, only 23% of the workforce. And so when we go in and talk to those high school girls, they tell us that 90% of them don't know any women in tech and have no role models. If you have no role models, you really cannot become, for the majority of people, what you can't see. And so the power behind that program is, how do we introduce those young women, thousands of them? This year, there's 3,000 girls in the program. How do we help those young women meet role models that they will never meet at home? And the program is so powerful because we have 30% of those girls coming from Title I. It hits every county in the state of Utah, so you get all of the rural connections. And those young women are choosing STEM because of those experiences. And so, it's just another point of what is the relationship you're trying to create?
They need a superhero.
That's right.
Superheroine.
That's right. And how do you give them an environment that they see themselves become? Yeah, it's a really good translation back to that. And so it's kind of woven in that DNA of make experiences that make a difference for someone and that directly relate to the outcomes that help them, right? Because when those young women see that I can become this, it's cool. I had one of my student board members on a television segment last week, and she said, I've always liked science, but I was really embarrassed because I liked it because it wasn't normal. for us, it's always been about that positive side, right? Around what is it that we collectively change that increases opportunity? Because when we do that, then we get the outcomes that we want. It's amazing, right? The fact that you change the trajectory for someone's life, because what it means for the future of a lot of those girls is an entire different set of opportunities that might not have existed before. And so when they think about contributing to family and community and the environments that they get placed in, it changes what's in front of them. The thing I love most about technology is opportunity it creates. Yeah. Right? Because it's a world where technology is part of every company anyone cares about today. And the ability to show those girls how their talents enable whatever the future is and create more opportunity than they thought about before, that's what changes the entire economy. It changes culture, it changes families, right? If we inspire those young women to go pursue something, no matter what life throws at them, their opportunities look different. And that's really important. It's important for the entire ecosystem and for the next generations because you've enabled greater opportunity for more people more broadly. Yeah. To me, it doesn't matter which thing it is, right? Whatever it is you care about, you should be spending some amount of your time helping the people around you.
100%. It's so inspiring. Yeah. What does your legacy look like? What does that look like for you? Like when all is said and done, like what do you want people to say about you?
I definitely think the thing I want, of all the things that I care most about, it is that it's still grounded in the same thing, that I really was trying to help people become the very best that they could become. I view that in my kids, right? Like my stewardship there is whatever moment that we're dealing with, that I'm helping them to get those skills, that they become the very best person they possibly can become. And the talents that they've been blessed with, they learn how to bless the lives of other people around them and recognize talents in other people, right? And of all the other things, right, that we all like to talk about, right, whether it's wealth or family or things like that, at the end of the day, it is the relationships you create with people and the impact that you have on doing good for people around you. So oftentimes, I don't think I have enough time to do all the things that, come to your mind about how you should help people. Yeah. But I do try to operate that way, with people who work for me, with my family, with my kids, spending that time.
As you think through and you're in a space of bringing on new clients to help them embrace better this idea of making a difference in the world, of creating impact, you're helping inspire them, you're having conversations with them about what they can do to create these great and better experiences, enhanced experiences. For anyone that feels like it may be a little bit too much or a little bit tough to do, what's one thing that they could do in the next day to even just dial it up just a little bit? What's one thing that you would suggest a leader do?
So when you talk about changing culture and trying to understand experience, the very best place to start is how we ourselves interact with the people around us. Ooh, yeah. Right? So for me, the challenge would be, when was the last time you flipped it around and either asked someone else how to solve the problem versus solving it for them, right? Or asked everyone from or even just the interaction that you have from someone who's manning your front desk to someone who's, helping you with your schedule,
or maybe the custodian,
or anyone that you run into, right? I think the challenge for us is to both acknowledge and appreciate every person that you run into, and in some way drive an interaction that's not about us, but about them. Because oftentimes as leaders, we're really busy and we often know answers to things, which sometimes mean we forget about the other side of the recognition and the contribution of all of the people in every position and in everywhere in life. Right? It doesn't actually matter if they work for you or not. And I think when we start thinking others first, us second, in those interactions, it changes our perspective about all of those things.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I really look forward to sharing this with people. I know that it will be completely inspiring. Special thanks to our host, Rico Cocina, for creating the ideal place for us to talk about breakthrough culture, brand experience, and human connection. The atmosphere, the smells, and the tastes were an incredible experience. They make tortillas so good that businesses all over Utah serve them. And I love that I was there for Sid's first Al Pastor taco ever. Join the taco journey on my website. You are not going to want to miss out on the resources, courses, and of course, a national taco tour I'm planning when I launch the book, Search for the Perfect Taco. So follow me on social media, subscribe to my channel, and tune in to another episode of Tacoincidence, where we'll continue to explore the secrets to level up your culture, brand experience, human connection, and your taco game. Okay, just throwing this in here. El Pilon.
I'm gonna go carnitas first.
Going carnitas first?
Yep. How's the pastor?
It's really good.
Is it?
On the Chilean side,
I really like the pineapple in there. It was like,
Have you never had pineapple on?
well, no, I
Pastor
haven't.
before?
I don't know if I've ever actually had El Pastor one.
Yes. I'm so happy right now.
It's really good.
No.